And then, of course, we have SportsCenter NFL Blitz Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday morning, all leading up to Super Bowl 58. Chiefs, 49ers, a rematch of Super Bowl 54. Phil Murphy here alongside Laurie Horesh. And I mean literally alongside Laurie Horesh.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, man? How good is it to be in person for the Brekkie Show?
For the first time in our history, we're 4 seasons into this thing. For the first time ever in person doing the Brekkie Show together. I'd say
Did that reveal work?
I hope so. Look, you guys are at home. Let us know. Today is a special edition of the NFL Brekkie Show live from Radio Row in Las Vegas. This is a People's Show. We have opened up the Hot Take Hotline brought to you by McDonald's. Right from the top, we're going to dedicate this show to your comments, your questions, your predictions, your spicy takes. Going off the top, we want what you've got ahead of this big game. Phil mentioned against the Chiefs and 49ers. But yeah, look, we've always had chemistry together.
Sure.
We've always felt that bond. What started over a steak dinner in Miami, the last Super Bowl I was at
4 years ago,
has blossomed. And now we're in this special position now surrounded by NFL literati and royalty. The buzz here has picked up massively. It's Tuesday here. We know it's Wednesday morning back home. The buzz has elevated. You can hear it. You can feel it. The goosebumps are flying. And we get to celebrate this and hopefully bring a slice of this to all our NFL tragics, lovers, desperados, fans, the audience back home. So again, this is the People's Show. We have a few ready-made hot takes for the hotline to get
sizzling on the griddle, ready to go.
So where do we want to start with this? We had a few sent in.
Boz, you pull it up, man. I'm happy to chat, whatever. That's what's great about this game, though, is that as you get these ready, we can dissect what will end up being 60 minutes of football that we take for granted every week. There are, some weekends, 16 NFL games across the schedule. And we get one now with the world watching. Over 100 million Americans will watch this game. Estimates are 60-odd million people worldwide. And those numbers in Australia will certainly break records that were set last year. We hope you join us Monday morning on ESPN. Coverage kicks off at 9:30 a.m. with a special edition of NFL Blitz from inside the stadium. And then, of course, 4 quarters of football kicks off at 10:30 Sydney, Melbourne time. I know there's watch parties on the Sydney Harbor, watch parties across the country. We're humbled that some of you will be watching us, so we hope you enjoy it with us, and not just the game itself, of course, but the all the discourse leading up to and through Super Bowl 58, where NFL history will be made.
After all that table has been set, and no one does it better than Phil Murphy. Like I've said, when we dive into the history, the rich tapestry of these games,
filibustering so you can pull up the hot takes.
No one does it better
than
Phil.
Put the Phil in filibuster.
That you do. All right, let's go with first one right off the top here. And we've got a strong prediction from the man known as Mordo. He's got Jake Moody to kick one from 55 out to win it for the San Francisco 49ers. So he's leaning towards a 49ers victory.
Sounds like it.
The bookies opened with the 49ers leaning towards the 49ers with a narrow little point spread there, narrow little money line advantage. So the 49ers to either be trailing late, either be tied late, or in overtime. We've got Brock Purdy, who's shown some late game steal and late game mettle despite some rocky despite some rocky early passes there. That Mordo is saying that we are going to get the man named Moody to take the mood in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And from what we heard from opening in night and from the fans, the 24,000 fans that they had, it sounds like it's going to be partisan towards the 49ers in terms of that crowd.
I'll say that again. 24,000 people showed up at Allegiant Stadium to watch players get interviewed by jokers like us. Staggering demand. The NFL is an absolute juggernaut. The partisan support was undoubtedly for the 49ers on opening night. According to Vivid Seats, which tracks the fan bases that purchase these seats, right now it's a 60-40 lean for San Francisco, which is not uncommon. They actually have the second best sales to opposing fans of any NFL side. But back to the take, Mordo's take. Moody to win it. I'm on San Francisco. I'm all cards on the table. Laz is on Kansas City. Normally there's some, I don't want to say groupthink because we come to these conclusions very separately, but we dissect games similarly. So it's not uncommon for Laz and I to be on similar sides of the aisle either way with these takes and opinions. But I am on the 49ers to win. Laz is on the Chiefs. That's where we're going to be coming from over the next 3 shows. Jake Moody for a 55-yarder to win it would be interesting because he's missed some key kicks. That's been one of the rare weaknesses in the 49ers game is the special teams. He missed what would have been a walk-off winner against the Browns, which kicked off a 3-game losing streak for San Francisco in the middle of the season. What would be great about that, though, Laz, and something we chatted to Mitch Wisnowski about, he would be the last person aside from Moody to touch the ball if it is a walk-off winner. being the holder, a very thankless job for a punter. And that would make him the first ever Australian to play in a Super Bowl and win it. Jesse Williams won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks, but he was on injured reserve for that game. Every other Australian who's played in a Super Bowl has lost. So Mitch Wisnowski on the field for the winning moment for the 49ers. I'm here for it.
I am leaning towards the Kansas City Chiefs in this one. So whilst I don't align exactly with Mordo's pick there, I think what's smart for him is the fact that he's looking towards a tight game. I don't think this one's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
I think the matchups across the board, I think when you look at the skill position talent on offense, it certainly tilts towards, even with Travis Kelce on the paddock and the rise of Rashee Rice, it certainly leans towards the 49ers and their four horsemen that they roll out there across wide receiver, tight end, and the running back spot there with Christian McCaffrey. Quarterback, you lean towards Patrick Mahomes. Offensive line, I don't think either unit has been playing at a complete level this season, but if you're looking at talent, consistency across, I'd lean towards the Chiefs. Even with the underperforming spots they've had at tackle, I think it's been better in the playoffs. And then defensively, they've both got so much to offer. They're both they're well-coached defenses. I think they're both well-coached on both sides of the ball. I like while some people express perhaps some fatigue about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs being there again, these two matching up, you've got talented rosters, you've got talent on both sides of the ball, and you've got aggressive, creative coaching, as you're getting a real feel for the buzz of Radio Row walking right behind us there. But what you do get, that's what makes this so fun, is these creative approaches from the offenses and the defenses. Look, we spent plenty of time talking about Spags. We'll get into a little of that over the next 3 days because we are doing these shows for the next 3 days live here from Radio Row. But strong one there from Mordo kicking us off. We've got Brad Bolt, great friend of the show, and a Hall of Fame friend of the show. Giving us a little good morning.
Inaugural Hall of Fame class member.
Exactly. And I think we waived the 5-year waiting period, which we'd have to, considering that we've only been going for 4 years. But we will go to Brad quickly because he sent one right off really kicking us off on a nice note here. We've gone from special teams. Now we're going to go to non-quarterbacks. Brad believes it will be a non-quarterback who wins the Super Bowl MVP. Phil, when you think about that, let's put Moody and Mahomes to the side for a sec. Who's the name?
Moody and Mahomes? You give him Moody?
I've got Moody on the mind.
You could get a good value there.
You could. I think he might be in the field. I think he might be in the field option there. I don't know that he's got individual props. Let's put Purdy and Mahomes to the side for a sec. What name comes to mind for you that would stand out as the leader in this charge of Brad's bold take here, his hot take?
Well, one that jumps straight away for the 49ers, who are slight favorites, is Christian McCaffrey. He's considered by many to be the best non-quarterback, the best pure football player in the NFL. And given the game manager narrative against Brock Purdy, which I detest, this is an award that's voted on. So if Christian McCaffrey has a game that's 80-odd yards from scrimmage and he finds the end zone twice in a 24-21 49ers win, which a scoreline like that should surprise nobody, I could see Christian McCaffrey getting that award. Whereas we saw that when these teams played in Super Bowl 54, I thought Damian Williams was the most impactful player on the field. And Patrick Mahomes won MVP.
I mean, Sammy Watkins had a shout in that game as well. Some of the massive receptions he created and some big pass interference balls I think he owns as well.
And with all the accolades that Patrick Mahomes has earned and deserves, when in doubt, he's going to get the nod as the most valuable player. That's not the case with the 49ers. So if you see a Dre Greenlaw get multiple interceptions or somebody get a defensive touchdown in a close game, somebody have a Von Miller-esque impact from Super Bowl 50 on either side, specifically for San Francisco, there are a lot of avenues in which a 49er could win a non-QB MVP. I think it's worth a shout there. For the Chiefs, would take something special because even if Travis Kelce, continues to turn back the clock like he has all postseason, say he goes over 100 yards and gets 10 catches and gets a late game touchdown, whereas Cooper Kupp won that award Super Bowl 56, I still think it would go to Mahomes just because of the gravitas around him and the Mahomes magic and all of that. Maybe an Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, how well he runs the ball to the weak side of the line, how well he can break tackles. If he has a Terrell Davis Super Bowl 32 type game, I could see him getting the nod, but you're talking somebody needing to find the end zone 2 or 3 times. So there are avenues. We're going to have a popular demand special where we'll really break down some of these picks.
Look, I have listened to a lot of Reba lately, so I'm going to save that one for tomorrow. But it's concerning my wife and child when they go on the Spotify account, looking to get something. We do dance parties pretty strong in our house.
Okay.
My son's favorite song right now is Sandstorm by Darude.
Good one.
Yeah, we bring it in young in the Horesh household. We get the fist pumping going at an early age, and they're quite concerned how often I've listened to Fancy and the night the lights went out in Georgia, both absolute bangers from Reba.
So you've had a quarter. I'm just going to just
go
press on.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks won MVP 7 times in the last 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as disparate as league MVP. But there are avenues, especially with the San Francisco 49ers, how much skill position talent they have in addition to Purdy. I'm not going to say outside of Purdy. I'm going to beat the drum and include him in that. Looks like we do have a take, though, for a very specific non-QB MVP.
Let's bring this one up here. And I know, look, this is one that's going to please strong communities in Australia. We represent everybody down here, and I know the Greek community, particularly in Australia. George Karlaftis for MVP. This is a shout from one Mr. Wilson out there.
Malcolm Smith won it for the Seahawks. Von Miller won it for the Broncos. I think Derek Brooks won one for the Buccaneers when they won it 2002.
That Malcolm Smith one stands out particularly for me because whilst encourage everybody to have fun responsibly in whatever you do on Super Bowl day, at 34-1 for an interception to be returned for a touchdown on that Malcolm Smith day was quite a nice way to celebrate the Super Bowl.
First scoring play is a safety.
The other name that I want to bring up, and in our Super Bowl preview show last year, while you were on the ground and we had some special guests on, LME and Ben Baby, the name that was on the tip of all of our tongues we wanted to talk about was one Nick Bolton. He had a real shout for Super Bowl MVP last year.
Scoop and score.
Almost had 2 with iffy turnover that didn't fall the way of the Kansas City Chiefs. It was almost another one that he had created a massive turnover there and helping the Chiefs put points on the board. That didn't go his way, but you thought if he collected 2 of those, that my goodness, we could be on here. But he's a name that I certainly want to talk about because from a diagnosis standpoint, for how quickly he can disrupt the play, what he can do in the passing game, especially over the middle of the field, where we know Brock Purdy likes to plant his foot and rip those 18-yard digs. It's an area of the field that he's very, very comfortable or very, very keen and aggressive to get after, and that's somewhere that Nick Bolton can operate and look against the run game. The Chiefs are going to need someone to step up and create some negative plays against Christian McCaffrey, and Bolton rocking number 32. He's hugely transformative for that defense. But there we go, George Karlaftis and Nick Bolton getting some love here. Now we got John Roberts. Look, the numbers are growing. The audience is there. People are happy to see us at Super Bowl Radio Row in Vegas. Keep the questions in the comments coming, guys. The next one, John Roberts.
And we know it's an early morning, so we appreciate you guys joining us.
We do. It's gone 8 a.m. on the Melbourne and Sydney part of the East Coast. No offense shot there at Brisbane. We know you guys like to do daylight savings a little differently. Shout out Adelaide and Perth and wherever the clock says for you guys.
Quarter past.
I've been in Australia in 35 years of my life, and I still don't know what the time difference is at this time of the year across the rest of the continent. But that's this is my little Sydney bias showing there.
Had to have a little dig at South Australia for no reason whatsoever.
Great wine.
Terrific.
Great wine, great
Auckland, I hope you guys are enjoying a late brunch. I guess,
the New Zealand. I think that quick detour here for a minute, surprisingly for me, I know.
Never happens.
No. I think New Zealand is one of the best NFL watching time zones in the world.
Yes.
A couple hours later than Australia. So the worst it gets for that morning run is a 5 a.m., which is the best it gets for Australia. But you're kicking off, you're watching at 5 a.m., the second tier of games is coming in at a late breakfast. And then by the end of the season, once all the daylight savings is clicked over, and it's like 2 p.m. kickoff, 2:30 p.m. kickoff in the afternoon there on a Monday.
Yeah. And think of the week openers. It's like Friday happy hour. I've seen some magnificent scenes from an establishment in Hamilton that was for every week for a few weeks, sending us photos and just pristine weather in the southern summer. Just totally
shout out to our friends in New Zealand, because we don't ignore you. We love you. We are ESPN Australia, New Zealand. We know we spend a lot of time talking about the 25, 26, 27 million Aussies, but shout out to New Zealand. You can't have a bad time in New Zealand. It's a great place to go visit. All right, John Roberts did have a take, so we're going to get. Oh, hold on. Brad just won South Australia. Represent. Heaps good.
I know. Well, Laz was the one who was hating on all the weird times.
Oh, I wasn't hating. I was just being pretentious. Again, surprises.
Pride of
John, my take. The Chiefs' painted end zone should remain there after the Super Bowl until Mahomes retires or the Raiders beat him.
I like that. That's decent. Now it was interesting, Laz. You and I were there at opening night last night, and the field on which they're going to play is outside of the stadium. They're treating that field perfectly. The grass will be pristine. Will be natural grass in a domed environment.
Some are saying it looks like Augusta National on Thursday morning.
Yeah, or what's the really good golf in Sydney? Something Point?
No, Jack's Point is over in New Zealand.
Oh, okay, Jack's Point. I apologize.
If you're looking for the best fairways in Sydney,
yes.
I mean, really, you can't go past East Lakes. Oh no, it's not East Lakes, but shout out to East Lakes. It's always been there for the mountains.
So, but we were on the media day last night. They have a fake field.
Yeah.
It was painted as if a game was just going to be played on it, and it's going to be covered. That is the level of detail that
And
they're
that
going
fake
into.
field was still better than what they have at Meadowlands.
Oh, you had to just get that dig in there for the 2026 World Cup final. But Laz, you have the fake field. You got there was some critique last year of the playing surface, and as it's not legend, it's true. One of the builders at Allegiant Stadium, a Chiefs supporter, buried a Chiefs jersey underneath Allegiant Stadium as some weird hoodoo for this Super Bowl 58 that we knew was going to be coming up. And just so happens, as life imitates art, imitates life, the Chiefs are playing in the game, the biggest game of the season. So I'm keen. Yeah, you got to earn it. If Patrick Mahomes comes into your house like he has across the AFC West, sans the last meeting against the Broncos, and won as a starter, leave the Chiefs end zone. It's his house.
The bigger part of this conversation as well is that when it comes to these key down and distances in the red zone, can the 49ers be a team to slow down Patrick Mahomes, who, whilst there have been some red zone frustrations for the Chiefs during part of this season, at this point over his career, as we got to the playoffs, we know how detailed, how composed. Look at the red zone work that they provided us last year. I think there are a lot of fantasy football players that bought into how they use Kadarius Toney and even Sky Moore on some of those little fake into outs there in those big red zone opportunities in the Super Bowl against the Eagles last year. Didn't see as much of that from those two in the 2023 season, but we've seen the execution that they bring, and I think part of that we can look towards Andy Reid, his record off the bye, and the fact that you do essentially have a bye week in the run up to the Super Bowl. It's a 2-week lead up.
Yeah.
Benny G, this is not really it's not a hot take. Maybe for me, maybe not so much for you. Good looking host, good looking chat. It's Super Bowl week, baby. I would expect. I feel comfortable with the back end 2/3 of that. The good looking hosts. Look, I'm glad there's somebody out there other than my mum and my wife that feel that way. And thank you very much, Benny G. You're a phenomenal part of our comment section each and every week.
That is actually a hot take. That qualifies.
Toby's back in here. Chiefs winning the Super Bowl in Las Vegas equals Arsenal winning the Premier League at White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
There we go. We got crossover action going on there.
Yeah.
As a Man City fan, what do you have to say about that, Phil?
I'm grateful for Arsenal taking some points off Liverpool on the weekend. That helps my side. But yeah, I mean, it's City darn near clinched one of their recent Premier League titles at Old Trafford. They almost got the Guard of Honor at Old Trafford. Would have been beautiful, but they stuffed that up. Still got the title that year.
And look, as a Bolton Wanderers fan, I'm not qualified to talk about anything close to silverware or titles, so I let that one go right through to the
Nicholas Anelka had a good run of form.
He did until that team back then was a whole lot of fun. Ivan Campo, that's we were talking about that fad. I don't even know if the kids say fad these days. They probably put that trend, the meme, whatever.
Yeah.
That you're seeing on people's reels and everything and TikTok. Show me you at 21. At 21, I was rocking the Ivan Campo hair.
Yeah.
I can tell you it was a lonely time for all of us.
Yeah, I had a pretty embarrassing goatee at 21, and the hair was like.
And what music were we listening to with that goatee?
Blink 182.
Okay, that's not
Five Finger Death Punch.
Okay, all right. So here's an impromptu poll. What's a better look? Me listening to a lot of It Was a Good Day and 50 Cent and with an Ivan Campo hairstyle at 21, or Phil offering Five Finger Death Punch with some strong hair product and a goatee going on.
Trying to find
were we in the northeast of the United States at this point?
I was mid-Atlantic, yeah.
Yeah, and there we go. Oh, we got the blur on. That's the focus. Bring it back.
Well, I don't know if that's
we'll post this on the ESPN Australia socials, Australia New Zealand social status. We won't. Don't worry. It was a strong look. It was bold.
I had like 4 people comment that it looked like prison cosplay.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a little bit of
But the funny thing is, I have 3 photos from that year, and I'm wearing the same shirt in all of them. As is want to do at age 21.
It's a look that
you have your good shirt. Am I lying?
Feels a little inspired by the lead singer of Pantera, was it? I used to rock the strong shaped head back in the day. But
Dimebag Darrell.
That's oh my name. Rest in power.
Rest in power.
Okay. Moving on. And we need these hot takes keeping on coming in here, guys. As the show rolls on. Our own personal hot takes, Phil.
Yeah.
Have you got one that has percolated, matriculated, fostered, and
I do,
and grown with some real taste and zest in that prodigious brain of yours?
Yeah, Laz, and you can grade how sizzling this is, but the game manager narrative around Brock Purdy is now solely hooked on where he was drafted. If he was taken, I don't know, second round, 53rd overall in the 2020 draft, a la Jalen Hurts, this guy would be much more comfortably included in most valuable player conversations, not game manager and the team winning despite him conversation. So the game manager narrative around Brock Purdy, the last thread hanging there is his draft selection, which he has no control over and had no control over once he stepped off a university field for the last time.
I think that's strong. I think when we've got another one coming in here that I'll bring up, I think so much around this Brock Purdy conversation, you could hear it opening night last night. Like his teammates were asked the question, and there's a defiance that comes with their response there.
Yeah.
There's and it's something that, you know, I don't think you need extra motivation for a game like the Super Bowl, but when it comes to, you know, bulletin board material, when it comes to narratives that you're looking to prove wrong, and extra motivation,
take what you can get.
Take what you can get, and his teammates have every right to rally around him and challenge that idea. That he is something of a game manager, and that he's being discredited for a season that rightfully had him in the MVP consideration for much of it. And look, unfortunately, we're so far removed from Tom Brady that people forget the 6th round pick that people didn't get over for a long
198
time.
overall. Yeah.
It's the same with
199.
199
researcher. No, he's
199. We see the same to a lesser extent, but we see the same with Dak Prescott. I think that's always going to be part of this conversation. There was a 4th round comp pick, and that pedigree remains with you. No matter how, I think even quarterbacks a little further up chain.
But Dak's gotten past that. I mean, now there's the weight of the expectation of, you know, the intrinsic tie of how far he takes the Cowboys with his legacy, despite how well he's played, particularly in the regular season. And I'm talking about Dak there. But I'll just rip through the numbers really quickly with Purdy. Against man defense, 1st in yards per attempt, 2nd in QBR. Against press, which the Chiefs run a lot, highest rate in the league. Number 1 QBR, number 1 yards per attempt. Throws outside the numbers, 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Best QBR, best yards per attempt, best completion percentage. The guy he's going up against leads the NFL in screens. So the check down Charlie narrative that's around Brock Purdy could not be less accurate. And if anything, it's been Patrick Mahomes who's relied on shorter throws this season. And now, listen, I'm not discrediting Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback and as a play creator. But if we're going to look at blind CV, you'd be very surprised who's the one who's making the shorter, simpler throws, who's relying more on yards after the catch and his players to create just between the 2 quarterbacks in this game.
I think ultimately, Brad puts it really nicely here. If Brock Purdy wins, he will not get any credit, or he won't get the credit because the narrative that nearly any QB could win in that system. But that has a chance to be really starkly contrasted with what we saw last time.
And he's
really stark.
Right, and he's beat out Jimmy Garoppolo and Sam Darnold and number 3 overall pick Trey Lance for this job. He had to overcome all of those guys. And Kyle Shanahan said his first days in camp, he went to the general manager and such and said, this guy is going to win our starting job, full stop. And he did. And now he's playing at a level where if the 49ers win this game and he plays like he did in the second half, in the final drive against the Packers, and in the second half of the NFC Championship game, he's on the short list of reasons they won those games.
We'll get to my hot take in a minute. We had another one come in straight to the DMs. That was from the B League Says, and they've also been great friends and fans and part of the audience and providing some phenomenal takes week in, week out, and some questions. And their one was simple. This is put it down in bold writing, bold hot takes for the Hot Take Hotline. This is a Brandon Ayuk game. That's who's going to step up. And Ayuk, out of the 4, I mentioned the 4 horsemen there of the skill positions. When we're talking about Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is the one that gets the least amount of attention, despite the fact that he plays like a top 10, top 15 receiver and isn't fed like one. He's not someone who's going to find himself at 130 targets a season. It's just not how that offense functions. But Deebo Samuel, since returning to health, you see the plays that they designed for Deebo as well, how they turn to other players to run those same plays, and how ineffective Deebo Samuel's absence, his inability to be tackled at the first attempt. He matches the physicality that we see from other elements of their defense. It feels like he, at the wide receiver spot, sets it. It was asked of a few players last night at opening night who sets the mood in the locker room, and a lot of the 49ers players said Deebo Samuel. And on the field, that you expect the physicality and the tough nature to come from the defensive player. making splash play, creating something in the backfield. But he does so much of that from that wide receiver spot, and when he's getting screens across, or when he's getting screens, when he's getting sweep action and side to side rushing opportunities in the backfield. That I think Brandon Ayuk has. We saw what he did. If he doesn't turn that interception into a 51-yard reception, very well could be the Detroit Lions we're talking about instead of the San Francisco 49ers. Ayuk has come up with some massive plays, not to mention the clever touchdown he found at the back of the end zone there as well, a couple of plays later. So I'm a big fan of Brandon Ayuk. I think it'll be interesting to see these matchups because the cornerbacks, and you think of the two best cornerbacks the Chiefs get to roll out there with L'Jarius Sneed and the youngster Trent McDuffie, the cornerback matchups and how they match their DBs up against the wide receivers fascinating, telling. But Brandon Ayuk has the ability to win over the top. He can create yak. He's explosive. He's physical in his own right. And it would not surprise me at all if he's, out of all the wide receivers, Rashee Rice on an upward trajectory, mentioned Debo, got Kittle and Kelsey out there. If we ended that day with Brandon Ayuk as the leading receiver, particularly from a yardage standpoint, perhaps not total reception, but a yardage standpoint, that wouldn't stun me in the slightest.
1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns this season. He had a touchdown in the NFC Championship game. He is a prolific receiving target, and it's not going to go toward any MVP voting, but he is an absolute dog as a blocker. I mean, upfield, we saw so many times on our NFL Blitz shows, and Herm Edwards was always quick to point it out because he coached Brandon Ayuk at Arizona State. And if that says anything about the type of player he is, that Herm wanted to coach him and recruited him to Arizona State. Ayuk coming from out of position, running 50-odd yards upfield to make an upfield push to give Christian McCaffrey or Debo an extra 5, 10, 15 yards of space as a willing upfield blocker. He takes pride in that. You want to talk about a tone setter on a physical offense. He is absolutely that. In addition to A-plus hands and A-plus ability, his ball skills to go up and get deep passes.
Or react at the last minute when something bounces off a helmet.
When it takes a weird deflection and just be a threat over the top to give the underneath interior or exterior route space to operate. That is something that you can't replace. And it's no secret. I mean, I know Steve Spagnuolo's taking note of it. You and I will. And as a football fan, those plays away from the plays, the things that get you excited, Brandon Ayuk provides that play in, play out.
I'm just taking in the atmosphere here at Radio Row and
Carrot Top was over here a minute ago.
The names that are rolling around, the buzz is building, and that's something that we're so happy that we get to share today. What we want you guys to share with us and keep this going, because we are 27, almost 28 minutes into this. We'll go about 40, 45 at the end. I don't know why I was looking at my watch.
The big number on screen.
A big red number.
27:52.
Yeah, look, again, not the smartest, but make up for it in some other spots.
You don't know how hard it is to mask this from Connecticut. One of these types of things. Now that I'm here, I can just call it straight out.
I mean,
now that we're in person, when we're doing this show, it's 16,000 kilometers away. Or
whatever. If that's what you want to, if that's how you want to coronate our together after 4 years on the road, good hands on the reaching for the water bottle there. That could have got away from you. I bring up the 28-minute mark because it's been 28 minutes. We'll go for about 40 today.
Yeah, thereabouts.
A nice 40. It's been 28 or so minutes in, and we haven't got a script mention until now. John, the NFL trying to convince us there's no script writing while Mr. Irrelevant wins Super Bowl MVP.
I mean, Kurt Warner won an MVP, did he not, as an undrafted quarterback? Yeah, leave it up there.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking script writing, the Taylor Swift phenomenon and one of the few unearthed corners of NFL dominance in the media market being, the pop-obsessed supporters who may not have an interest in football now giving a reason to watch. That for me would be the script writing rather than Mr. Irrelevant. If anything, that's a draft script writing thing to say, hey, we need to pay attention to all 262 picks that we have this year.
Maybe we need more draft script writing, Phil. Maybe we do need to be paying attention to all.
Listen to you and I, because I mean, you had Tank Dell pegged in this year's draft.
Yeah.
I mean, you were obsessing over him from early day 2.
I'm not going to.
I'm not going to toot my own horn, but you toot.
You can, yeah.
I'm just pulling up how many draft picks there are this year, so excuse me.
Yeah, no, Phil's going to go look into how many draft picks there are. And that's the fun thing, guys. It's Super Bowl today or this week. There's Super Bowl Radio Row today.
No offseason.
Then the Combine is a couple of weeks from now. Then we're into free agency, and you best believe that Filthy and I here will probably have a deadline show going on there as the big names drop.
100%.
Gotta love the not allowed
Can
to
we
call
get-
it tampering.
Can we get a
period anymore.
Blitz special for the draft?
Here we
Blitz
go.
producer.
Here we go.
Approved. Let's do
There
it.
we go. Approved.
Done.
But it's such
Put
a
it
good
on your
12-month
calendar.
a year. I should say 11.
You know what?
month a
We
year
should
for
fly
us.
you to Detroit.
Fly me to Detroit.
Yeah, that's where the draft is this year. Yeah.
I've always felt a very spiritual connection between my character and my person in the city of Detroit, especially with the noted musical taste I have,
Okay.
the absence of rhythm that I have on the dance floor, my inability to remember lyrics.
And we just need to get you to America for a significant NFL event without losing a personal item of significant
All right,
value.
here we go. Yes, in Miami there was the laptop crash.
Who had the over 30 minutes on that? 'Cause it
Yeah.
just cashed.
Yeah, I can see. There's some very knowing nodding from the ESPN Australia office right now. As we've got our friends from the NFL Australia crew walking on
Yeah.
by here.
This is great.
Those guys doing phenomenal work out here. Make sure you're not just checking out the ESPN Australia New Zealand socials and YouTube and site. Check out the NFL Australia New Zealand guys as well because they're doing a phenomenal job.
They're everywhere, man.
They're everywhere. They're getting. Let me tell you, the boys are getting their steps up this week. They're getting their steps up because they're putting some miles on the legs. It's Tuesday here. I know it's Wednesday back home, but the carbs are burning across the ESPN Australia New Zealand and the NFL Australia New Zealand. These guys are at the Pro Bowl as well with Phil and company.
Yeah.
Which is joining later in the week because it isn't just the Brekkie Show this week. Phil, we've got 3 of these, but that's going to parlay into a few shows of your own there. Huh?
Yeah, teased it off the top. NFL Blitz with myself, Nick Rewalt, a rotating cavalcade, I will say, of NFL analysts. We have Dan Orlovsky talking a lot about the quarterback play and just the offenses at stake here. Ryan Clark, a terrific defensive player in his day. He's won a Super Bowl. He's lost a Super Bowl. Man, few can match his energy and his passion for the game. He'll be with us on the Blitz. And then Lewis Riddick, just full stop, one of the best NFL minds we have really in the sport, will join us for another episode of NFL Blitz. That is Friday, Saturday, Sunday mornings, and throughout the day. I think we have some re-airs. And then, of course, Monday, an hour preview kicking off at 9:30 a.m. from inside Allegiant Stadium, leading up to kickoff at 10:30. Nick Rewalt and myself will be here shooting those shows, gathering some content, and, of course, really being the appetizer to the main course that is Super Bowl LVIII, Chiefs Niners.
So much to come, so much to look forward to, but we still got a few coming in here. Brad throwing his hand up. If you ever need an extra for the draft, I know a guy who spends far too much time looking into these draft guys. I will absolutely confirm that Brad is a true believer when it comes to the draft and dives right.
How's
into
your expertise with the Find My iPhone app, Brad? That's what we need at the moment.
It's funny that we can laugh about these things.
One of us is laughing about it.
Moving on.
I have 2 phones, so I'm good. Two
Well,
for two.
And I have one that we've nicknamed McBurney. Moving on.
Producer Nate has 2 phones.
Well,
Just such an excess of cell phones here
we
that
may as well
have not been
are we
misplaced.
getting Kevin Gates sponsoring the show at some point with these 2 phones plugs that are going on nonstop? That was one of my theme songs for the 2016 draft that I spent running across Dallas like a lunatic. Right, moving on. My spicy take.
Yeah, is your hot
My
take.
hot take.
How many poker chips are we putting on this, by the way?
Well, look, it was a narrow defeat to me in the popular demand stakes in the regular season, so we'll settle it over the Super Bowl. We're not going to dip too far into that. But I do believe that we will see, and you tell me if this is bold or not, I think we see defensive scoring, possibly plural in this game. I think the aggressive nature of those defenses, I think the matchup advantages that perhaps there's some spots on those defensive lines have against the offensive lines. When you think about Bosa off the edge, with some of the inconsistency at tackle that we've seen from the Chiefs, when you think about Chris Jones matching up in the middle against the middle of that 49ers offensive line, some very loud.
Yeah, what is that? Sounded like a parrot?
Yeah. Aviary notion.
Kookaburra?
Stu Randall piping in with some comments about other things that I may have lost. No, my mic's still here, just hanging out. I think that there is the matchup potential there for some defensive scoring, for some disruption up front. Don't want to say it's safety, don't want to say whether it's a touchdown or a fumble in the end zone, something like that. But I could see disruption up front causing a Malcolm Smith-like play, whether it's someone that I mentioned before, Nick Bolton scooping up. But I think we get defensive scoring in this contest. And I just look at some of the star matchups up front, some of the talent opportunities from the defensive side up against the offensive line.
Yeah, it's an adequately spicy take. We had Nick Bolton have it's right where we want it to be, right? It's not so outlandish that I'm going to disagree with it, but defensive touchdowns aren't terribly common. We had one last year. Nick Bolton late in the second quarter, a game that really turned the tide in the favor of the Chiefs. They were getting dominated in the first half. If not for that defensive score, that game might have gotten out of reach. A game, of course, they won as reigning Super Bowl champions. One of the most bet on propositions in this is Brock Purdy to throw an interception.
Mm-hmm.
He's been largely responsible with the football, but Steve Spagnuolo, we know, loves to dial up both blitzes and sim pressures. Though Purdy has been very good against sim pressures, the Chiefs have relied on that and executed very well against it. And on the other side, Patrick Mahomes this year against zone, just 7 touchdowns to 7 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the 49ers like to operate their defense, they don't blitz terribly often, just 17% since acquiring Chase Young. That's 4th lowest rate in the NFL. They're more than keen to drop 7, try and get Patrick Mahomes off schedule. And as great as he is off schedule, Laz, he's 14-3 as a starter in the playoffs. All 3 of those losses came just in the 4 games that his average throw was longer than 3 seconds flat apiece. So getting him off schedule has been the key to beating him in the playoffs. Those are situations in which some of that Mahomes magic, maybe rolling out of the pocket, trying to throw across the middle, could create a turnover that leads to a score. So I think there are a number of avenues in which we could see a game-changing defensive touchdown here, in addition to the safety that you mentioned.
The defensive coordinator matchup there. Spags has been such a presence in so many playoff campaigns. He may very well go down as the greatest, one of the greatest DCs of all time.
Yeah.
One of these of all time, as the phenomenal Radio Row Wi-Fi shows its stability there and its ability to respond to adversity, which is what we're going to look at from some of these quarterbacks. We're tickling along to the 37-minute mark now. We're going to say if you've got any more of your hot takes to send in, now is the time. Whether it's predictions, whether it's comments, whether it's questions, we want to hear from you because this is the people's edition of the show. As I'm scouring across, we're seeing the social media love coming in for this very special edition. Reminder what we got next up. We've got our popular demand special, our
Very
Super Bowl,
significant.
Super Bowl novelty bet extravaganza.
Highlight
tomorrow.
of our year.
Just a time to truly dive deep into the minutiae of this matchup.
Yeah.
And then on Friday, we'll take a few more questions. We'll
Is
welcome
that
you
the
guys in.
quickly? Is the popular demand? Is that a culmination of our season competition, or have I won the regular season, and now we have a separate competition for?
No, I think you've won the minor premiership.
Oh, okay.
And now we move on. And effectively, it was so close. It was
Now
a matter
I'm going
of
for a
sense.
flag.
A matter of sense in it.
Yeah,
in the end.
hey, we got there. Big lead through the turn.
Mm-hmm.
You put on a charge late over the last couple holes.
I did.
Bogeyed 18.
I did.
I come out on top.
You did. It's a tough loss for me.
And our Super Bowl champion draft is still alive as well.
It is. And
You have the Chiefs.
Uh-huh.
I have my number 1 overall pick, the 49ers, which I am stubbornly sticking to, although I do think a lot of the matchups here do quietly favor San Fran. It feels weird, Laws. As we go around here, it seems like so much of the general momentum is people backing the Chiefs. And I get it because Patrick Mahomes has done it, but over the course of the season, the Chiefs we saw in the divisional round and the AFC Championship game is not the Chiefs we saw for 18-odd weeks of football. We talk so much about their offense underperforming. We see 2 games in which they look like the Chiefs of old, and it seems like we forget the issues they've had for the lion's share of the season.
It'd be interesting from what we've seen. We mentioned the partisan nature, and you saying you're hearing a lot of people who are on mics backing Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes.
We heard a lot of people in the crowd, not mic'd up, but being louder than anybody else, backing the 49ers. It'll be interesting because last time we saw this matchup in Miami within the stadium, it felt like about 60-40 towards 49ers, maybe 65-35 from a number standpoint.
Yes.
I think the Chiefs made noise above their billing and above their number with the help of the likes of Eric Stone
Yes.
getting on camera multiple times and making some noise. I think Paul Rudd was in the crowd that day as well. Not sure if he's got as much airtime on the stadium.
And they have even bigger star power who's projected to be in attendance.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that this week. So is that, I Grammy?
Yeah, we were worried about direct flight from Japan, how that would work. Like she was going to have a layover in San Fran, delayed by weather.
Did you know I speak Japanese? That one's for Stu Randall.
Yeah. You've told me that before.
Yeah, it tends to come out. The one.
Konoito ga zenbu haraimasu.
The one.
This man will pay for everything. I dabble.
The next time we talk, it is going to be popular demand tomorrow and our novelty bet special. But I will bring up one thing. You mentioned the interceptions there. Something that loomed. There's not a lot of form I've built over this season, but a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
when I say someone is going to have an interception on one of our popular
Take
demand
that.
picks,
You know what?
what
to
are
the
we at?
bank.
Are we at 5-0 now?
Mate, it hits.
All I know is it's
The
undefeated.
one
it's never
time I
lost.
did pilfer it from you, I called dibs on it before that hit as well. So we'll take that.
Yeah, I think you almost pushed me into going, I'll take 2 interceptions
Yeah,
to happen.
tilt.
That may have
Put
been
you
some
on tilt.
comments about, may have been some bias towards one Jalen Hurts that was influencing that, but I showed some restraint there. But we will dive all into it tomorrow. We've just hit the 40-minute mark. John wants to know if you've seen anyone that has starstruck you on Radio Row just yet. So this is the first big day of Radio Row.
Still building.
This is this first, like, yesterday it's quiet. You see a lot of people getting set up. A lot of the radio shows are going because they go like Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
But we're seeing a lot more now. I don't know. Have we been fully starstruck yet? Look, Field Yates in person. I mean, he's part of the ESPN family, but he's a phenomenal presence to be. One of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem fair that you can tick all the talent boxes that he has and also be, as you put it,
I want to hate him, but he's such a nice guy.
Just so accommodating. So I don't know that I can say that I've been starstruck yet, but I guess the magnitude of being
Is Taylor
around,
Swift not making her rounds of Radio Row? Did she cancel?
she providing maybe prop bet analysis.
I don't know.
We don't know. But maybe that's part. Maybe there's a song on the new album
102.5 The
dedicated
Game,
towards
I
that.
guess, is going to get her.
Okay. I would say being starstruck by Phil's ability to locate the wings that quickly. That took me back. But last night, I think just seeing the crowds, and I've been to one Super Bowl before, similar team, same quarterback on one side of things. You've been to 8, is it now?
This will be my 8th, yes.
But just seeing, 45 minutes before Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce were going to ascend their podiums,
Hundreds of cameras.
it was so packed out. And I think it speaks to where these guys are for some similar reasons, for some different reasons that we've seen come in.
How many competitive pro sports would be delighted with 24,000 fans showing up for one of their premier games? I mean, I can only speak to the NBA. I cover the NBA at length. Many arenas don't even hold 24,000. Madison Square Garden's like 21? And you had 24,000 people pay to get into a venue, pay for parking, deal with ride shares, go through security, to watch people get interviewed over the course of 2 hours.
And it is one of those things that
baffling.
Credit the players as well, because they're there for an hour and they're answering all sorts of questions.
God bless Mitch Wisnowski.
I mean,
stood there the whole time.
We've got chats. You got Phil had a good chat with Mitch. I spoke to him a little bit. We've got different pieces of that coming out this week. You're going to catch that. Obviously, a nice shiny version of that is going to be on Blitz this week, later in the week. We'll get that up on, check out the ESPN Australia YouTubes. We'll get it on some of the socials as well, some little
TikTok?
snippets. Little TikTok? Of course, little TikTok.
Okay.
We've got JT in attendance here. He'll certainly be all over the TikTok.
He needs to help me start a TikTok.
That's what we need, yeah. I can't imagine. Where are you going to start? Will it be gym TikTok, do we think, right off the bat?
Oh, I didn't know there was more to it. I thought you just had to dance. Is that not?
Just you dancing in the gym at 5:30 in the morning in a fresh pair of
I don't know.
Jordans?
I don't know how this works.
I think you hitting the kicks, dance, and gym areas of the TikTok algorithm.
I'm going to help you do some shoe shopping this week.
You are.
There we go.
That's certainly on the cards here. Just picking up something for my far better half back home.
I don't have to dance when we do that. Okay, that changes things drastically.
You dance when you do most of your shoe shopping.
Okay.
We've got one more request here. Can we get a live feed of Big Red at a Vegas buffet? I don't know that he's going to be at public buffets this week, Big Red. I imagine the food spread where they are. Both the teams are staying a little bit out of Vegas.
So the teams are staying about 40 kilometers west of the Strip. This is unlike Super Bowl, 52 in Minneapolis, where one of the teams was staying at the Mall of America. So, my wife and I had just been married for days before that Super Bowl. We went out for a nice dinner, and there were players, like Julian Edelman was at dinner. So it was just, the guys and their families there on the night before the game. I don't think they're going to be venturing over to like any of Gordon Ramsay's restaurants here on the Strip. They're staying pretty far away, pretty sequestered, pretty secluded, and with good reason, understandably, giving themselves some space and being away from all the chaos and the media demand. It's going to make things, I think, a little quieter here on Radio Row, but it enables us to, have our space and just be here for the people.
Yeah, and take polite, insightful, educated, but gentle jabs at each other in person for the first time.
Mine weren't polite.
I thought I was meant to be. They were genuine, but I was meant to be the mean one of the two of us. You're the nice one, or is that just off camera? I'm grumpy off camera, and you're the nice one.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. It's the yin and yang of it all. We've been doing it for 4 years now. Now we get to do it for 2 more days here on Radio Row. Then we'll have a ton more content coming out across all platforms. We mentioned the broadcast shows we've got coming up, special Blitz editions that Phil is running point on. Is that fair to say?
Sure. Yeah,
Sure.
Nick and I are co-hosting, but
Yep.
we're sharing some of those responsibilities. You'll be leading into some features. We're conceptualizing new stuff too. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun from Friday morning, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on ESPN, and then of course the main broadcast Monday morning, 9:30 coverage kicks. Game kicks at 10:30. But join us from 9:30. We know we've got viewing parties all over Australia. There's the big one the NFL's putting on in Sydney, but I mean, whether you're in Viaduct Harbor, you've got a line of sight to the Sydney Harbor Bridge.
Go on.
Elizabeth Key in Perth.
Okay. All right.
I think that covers for me.
Yeah. Anything up on the
longitude.
peninsula?
God bless. I've never been to Cairns. I mean, I know it's hot there.
I appreciate how much you've ripped your absolute innate tendency, being American, to put the real R emphasis on that word, and you have stripped it so far back.
Hey,
it's a standard setting you don't get everywhere, guys. This is the work that goes in.
Come on, Taipans. Let's go. All right.
And NBL plug as we get out of here. Let's
Yeah.
take us on out of here from Radio Row as we're drinking in this atmosphere. We'll be back tomorrow.
Yes, and we're going to be doing some drinking tonight as well. I
okay,
think
yeah.
going to go take in some Golden Knights.
Mm.
So that's the thing. Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world.
Mhm.
Lots of fun to be had, including with these fake poker chips they gave us.
Mobile phone capital of the world, I hear as well.
Yeah, you can find one very quickly once yours is lost in a
T-Mobile Arena.
Yeah, ironically, we are going to T-Mobile Arena for a hockey game, which is really twisting the knife a little bit on your new cell phone. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Is that the time we're starting this?
It'll be 8 a.m. in Australian Eastern Daylight Time.
But-
So that's Melbourne.
But
and
like South Australia, Laws is like 15 minutes past is when these things kick off anyway. So, we'll be fuzzy with the time. But yeah, that's our prop special.
I wouldn't exactly say, I'm a country boy or anything like that, but country time does tend to like, that might be a little my dad's rural roots coming into it there. We're going to get out of here.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us on the Hot Take Hotline Special Edition Super Bowl LVIII NFL Brekkie Show presented by Macca's. He's Laurie Horesh. I'm Phil Murphy. One high five for the road. See you guys tomorrow.